Hello, family. Thank you for tuning into this video today. Super excited to have you here. If you are a current subscriber, welcome back. If you are new to the channel, I hope you get some value out of what's on offer here today. Look, I think this video is for anyone currently in the market now or plan to be in the market very soon, looking for an investment property in regional Queensland, because the information I'm going to share with you today is going to be absolute gold. It's going to enable you to find the assets that I believe outperform the averages in regional Queensland when it comes to higher rental returns. And if you can implement, some of these things as part of your asset selection process, you'll do very well and you'll find an absolute gem that's going to give you the solid cash flow returns you are looking for. So stick around, guys. I hope you're going to get some value. This video is going to be short and sweet, just like me. Hey guys, just a quick one here. For those that don't know me, my name is Troy Simbassini. I'm the owner and head of research of Life Buyers Agency. We are located on the ground in regional Queensland and have been buying here now for the last 7 years. And the aim of what we do is to help investors and home buyers navigate the regional Queensland property market and help them mitigate their downside risk and maximize their upside potential. And we service, everywhere basically from Bundaberg all the way through to Cairns. We've got these two brands here that we operate under. Capricorn Life targeting the central Queensland catchment, Rockhampton, Mackay, Gladstone and Bundaberg. Then we've got Tropical Life, North Queensland targeting Cairns, Townsville and the surrounding region there as well. So I suppose if you are someone that haven't taken action yet, you are still stuck and not moving forward, you're still unsure where to buy and you're struggling, maybe it's worthwhile having a chat to us. We might be able to see if we can add some value there and get you into the market. Or if you're just someone that's, time poor and extremely busy and have been sitting out of the market for quite some time and missing out, I think we might be able to potentially get you in as well. But feel free to give us a call on that number. Give us a subscribe on our socials. You can follow me as well. I put a lot of free content out on TikTok and on Instagram. And you can visit us on those websites as well to book in a time to have a chat with me or one of my team members to discuss if we might be able to help you guys. But no one puts out this sort of content, guys. This content is just me doing a community goodwill. I call it the community service content. And look, if anything, if I get anything from it, happy days. If I can help you, mitigate your risk and maximize your upside potential in regional Queensland, I've done my dues. So cheers, guys. Thank you. So I'm going to go through 5 things today that I believe are the cheat code for you to achieve higher than average rents in regional Queensland. And these things are all what I call micro nuances when you are going through the asset selection process. A lot of people, they take a macro approach. They just pick a location, pick a suburb, and then pick a property, and that's all there is to it, right? They don't do any micro level due diligence or have a micro asset selection process. And what I'm showing you today is the little what I call 1%ers that can be the difference between a good rental property and a great rental property. I'm going to go through 5 things that if you can put this on your asset selection criteria, you're going to get a property that's going to rent very, very well. And these things, right, I'm assuming here you're buying in a really good market where the vacancy rates are low. You're buying in a really good location at a suburb level. Now what I'm saying is once you've found the property, the ideal property, this is what the property needs to have. Starting with number 1, green space, right? Green space. Now for those that don't know what I mean by green space here, is all I'm referring to is the yard, right? In regional Queensland, we that live up here, we like to have a backyard, a front yard, or some green space to enjoy the outdoors, the sun, the rain, everything that comes with the lifestyle of living here up north. So I find from my experience of buying more than $250 million worth of residential real estate in regional Queensland is that properties that have sufficient and adequate green space or yard tend to outperform when it comes to rental returns in the marketplace here. So I suppose if you are in the marketplace and you are trying to find a property that has sufficient green space, the things you need to be looking out for is what I capture here. So the size of the yard, I think, is an extremely important. And what we try to target as a bit of a threshold is roughly a total yard area of around 40% or more of the total footprint. So let's say if you have 800 square meters of land, and then the house occupies around 300, square meters or of land, then that means the residual land there available is probably 40, 50, or 60%, right? So you have that residual land component there. So what we're trying to do is aim for 40% or more. Because what you'll actually find, even in regional Queensland, unfortunately, there are a lot of properties and a lot of developments where they've built properties on relatively small blocks, like 550 square meters. You can find properties with in Townsville and Mackay, even parts of Rockhampton, that are sitting on 450 square meters. And you go and try and go out into the backyard, and you got no backyard at all. And for me, that's a big no-no, and that can be the difference between an extra 20, 30, $40, $50 a week rent is having adequate and sufficient green space. So look at that yard size, and you want it to be 40% or greater than the total footprint. And then when you're starting to look at the other little details, you want to look at, okay, is the outdoor area or the yard space flat, right? So does it cater for family friendly and outdoor recreation or living with the ability to have a fireplace, maybe a pool down the track, a shed? Is it flat land when we're looking at the green space ratio compared to the dwelling? And then from the surrounding gardens, are they also low maintenance? Because I know as a tenant, you don't want to be maintaining, right? Uh, Big established gardens and trees. The low maintenance gardens tend to be the ones that are better equipped for rental properties. And it also saves you the headache down the track of potential termite infestation, trees falling over onto your property, causing a hazard or a safety risk and a liability risk for you as an owner. So I think when you look at a property, if you can factor in its green space when buying in regional Queensland, that can be the difference between $20, $30, $40 a week in rent. So put this one on your asset selection criteria, guys. Now, the next thing you should put on your cheat code list is floor area and floor plan. And again, this is another 1% thing a lot of investors overlook, right? When they're going through and buying an investment property, they don't do this level of due diligence often on the property. And I think if you can nail these two things as well, in addition to having good land, then that's just going to continue to take your property from good to great. Now we're looking here at floor area and floor plan. So pretty much what I refer to as the floor area is everything that can be usable or inhabited under the roof line, right? So the floor area, everything that's usable under the roof line. And then the floor plan pretty much is the configuration of the property under its roof line. So where its walls and adjoining walls sit under the roof line. So what I find in regional Queensland is the properties that we've bought that have had really good floor plans and really good floor area under roof have always outperformed on the rental market. They've always got stronger than averaged returns. And we've been able to do this by making sure we've nailed these two things. And when looking at these two components of a property, the things to look out for is number one is the square meter under roof, right? So this is everything that sits under the roof line, and what you want it to be is around that 180 square meters or more. Even if it's a three bedder, you still want it to be maybe around that 160 on average. But for four bedders, 180 upwards, right? I think that is a sufficient amount of floor area. And I find if you get properties that are bigger than that are four bedders or three bedders, you are doing very well. Properties that are smaller than that tend to have your smaller living areas, your smaller dining areas, your smaller patios, your smaller bedrooms. So when the properties are smaller and more condensed, they lose their appeal and desirability for rental tenants, right? People like to have larger bedrooms for queen beds, for king beds, for double beds. They like to have larger living areas for big sofa lounges. They like to have big dining areas for big dining tables. You can see where I'm going with this, right? So the larger the floor area under roof is a prerequisite for better rental returns. Trust me on this, guys. I've seen it and I've done it a lot here in regional Queensland. Now, that's number one. So look for floor area greater than 180 square meters or greater than 160 square meters if you are buying a three better. Now, when you are evaluating the floor plan and its configuration, what I like to look for, particularly when I'm going out and inspecting these properties, me and my team, is we're walking through the property and we're looking for dead space, right? Because when there is dead space, that suggests to me that the floor plan is inadequate, right? So that means that there are places in the home that aren't being maximized to their highest and best use. So there might be a wall in between the kitchen and the living area, and it's enclosed and created a little storage area, and it just becomes this complete dead space in the middle of the property. Or there's this sunroom adjoint to, let's say, a living area that's only sufficient enough to store shoes and bags, but you can't really use that area for anything else, right? So if you look for dead space, then that speaks to the floor plan of the property as well. And when you find these properties that have the dead space, you often overlook them because they become very undesirable for people, and then you're not getting the maximum per foot returns for rent, right? Because there is this dead space here. And then that dead space then plays into the role of having that good open floor plan. Because what we are looking for when we're trying to buy in regional Queensland and these properties is that good and seamless flow between the indoor and outdoor area, between the kitchen, living, and dining space. We're trying to not look for walls in the way, we're looking for the open plan properties. Because I don't know about where you guys are, if you're watching this from, not in regional Queensland. What I find is people up here like open plan living and that seamless flow between the living, dining, and kitchen. And they tend to be really good properties for rent as well, because families, they can, be cooking their dinner and then be supervising the kids at the same time while they're watching TV in the lounge, and they have that clear line of sight of that supervision. So we find that alone, when you have good, efficient floor plans, it just makes it so much more appealing for that family market demographic, and then even, if you take it one step further, we also like to look at floor plans where even you have the master bedroom on one side of the property and then the remaining bedrooms on the other side. So you actually separate the parents from the children. And particularly if you've got older kids and teenage kids, where the parents can have an ensuite and a main bedroom on one side of the property, and then the kids can use the main bathroom and the toilet on the other side of the property, and be uh, basically on two different sides, if whether you're left or right or front or back. If you find properties that have that sort of floor plan as well, they're very, very good. And then lastly, things like natural light and breeze flow as well can be very important. And this is hard to do if you are trying to buy from your desktop computer and you're unable to inspect it, and it's hard to tell from agents' photos and videos, right? So we're lucky of being on the ground. We can walk through these properties and have a look at, all right, turn all the lights off. What does the natural light look like? Open up the window, see if there is breeze flow. It's going to be pretty hard if you are trying to buy remotely. Maybe you can send a third party out to have a look, or maybe you can just prompt the agent to, give you some insight around, what the natural light looks like and what the breeze flow looks like. Because I find properties that have really good natural light and breeze flow tend to also provide stronger rental returns. And they also, everything married in there, natural light and breeze flow, good floor plan, healthy floor area under roof, just makes it all round family friendly. So I think if you can include, this on your asset selection criteria, I think again, similar to, having sufficient green space, it can also be another 10, 20, $30 a week in rent, and definitely going to outperform the averages if you look at this little nuance of making sure the property has really healthy floor area under roof and has a nice floor plan that's open, that has very limited dead space and natural light and breeze flow, accompanied with being family friendly. All right, the next thing to add on your cheat code is finding a property that sits on a quiet residential street. Yes, if you can nail this, again, you're going to find that your rental returns are going to be a lot stronger than average. And obviously, if it's married in with a good floor plan, good floor area, and then also good yard, then you can see how it's really starting to stack up as a really desirable asset that someone's willing to pay a little bit more for to rent in the marketplace, right? So a quiet residential street. And look, this is something that we always target for our clients, unless the strategy is that they want to be on a thoroughfare or a busy main road where the land component has future development potential, because often you'll find the land zoning there actually changes from low density residential to median or high density or commercial or light industrial when you tend to be located on main roads, major connecting roads, big arteries. But for the most part, for people that don't have that as an investment strategy, we're targeting quiet residential streets. So quiet residential streets, I think what I mainly look for there is where the traffic flow into that area is only local traffic only. So people that are coming into that street are only coming there to go home back to their primary place of residence or to visit friends and family in that area. So what you'll find is that traffic flow is not as high as, let's say, somewhere that's a main road, that's a big artery, a major noise corridor. It's just, bumper to bumper. We don't target those streets. So if you find a property on a good, quiet residential street, you'll find that you'll do very, very well. So one-way streets are generally really good. Cul-de-sacs are generally really, really good. Two-way streets are fine, provided they connect up to, again, a quiet residential street. So even if they connect up to a main artery or a connecting road, they're fine, provided those two connecting roads are either side, and then the quiet residential street sits here. So people would have to turn off the busy road and then onto your property. You might find you might get a little bit of traffic that people are trying to shortcut if they're trying to connect through to your street and then onto another road. So just be mindful of that. But what we find are the best are one-way streets or cul-de-sacs. And if you can look out for those, trust me, you're going to do very, very well. Because if you think about it, right, I just think about my place where we stay. Like we were on a quiet residential street, like only local traffic comes up here. And pretty much like when my son goes outside and kicks the footy around, like all the kids from the neighborhood come there, and then all of a sudden they're playing soccer on the road, or they're playing cricket, they're playing handball, they're riding their bikes. Now, these are the things that people like, right? Even when they are renting, this is what's important to them. So if you can nail these quiet residential streets, trust me, you're going to do very well. And then when you find properties on these quiet residential streets, you are ticking all these other boxes, right? So you away from what I say here, noise corridors, right? So if your property is backing onto, let's say, a main road or a highway, you're going to get all that noise of the big trucks going past, hooters hooting by, you know what they're like. Safety is a big one as well. You can have a safety issue if there's a thoroughfare really, close to your investment property, and a car. There's been cases where cars have swerved off and smashed into living rooms or properties, crashing into yards, and killing people, damaging property, killing pets. So safety becomes a big issue. And then what I find is street width as well. I find like the streets that are much more narrower tend to be a lot better, because then you avoid all of that street parking, right? It can be really annoying when you get a lot of that street parking. So I find if you get the street width right, if you can target the one-way streets, you can target cul-de-sacs, and then these, as a result of these, local traffic only flows into that area, you're going to get really, really good rental returns. Like last year, I was speaking to an investor, and he reached out. He already bought one property in regional Queensland. Then he came to me and said, "Oh, sure, I think I need help on the next one." So I was like, "Oh, well, let's just have a quick look at the one you bought first." And it turns out, yeah, he bought on a major artery or a major connecting road in Bundaberg. And I just said, "Mate, what was sort of the rationale thinking behind this one? Like, did you do any road-based due diligence?" He's like, "Mate, that didn't even cross my mind." So I was like, "Oh man, like, if he just bought two streets over a very similar type property, he probably would have got an extra $20-$30 a week rent just by being on a more quiet residential street." So yeah, guys, if you couple quiet residential street in with good floor plan, good floor area, good green space, you can start to see how everything's really starting to stack now to give you the best rental returns in the marketplace. Okay, guys, stick with me here. So I've got two more left. I think you should add to your cheat code list. All right, so the next one is side access. Now, this is also important for just general owner occupancy, but renters love this also, right? So what I refer to there by side access is pretty much you have your property, you have your side gates, then you have the residual land at the back, the backyard. You want to be able to access the backyard via the side of the property. So you want between sort of 4 to 6 meters of width left or right of the property to be able to access the rear of the property, or to be able to store things like boats, caravans, sheds, things like that. And I find properties that have side access generally are more and more appealing to different tenants, particularly tradies and particularly people that hoard a lot of toys like the boats, the caravans, etc. But that side access also gives you the ability not only to get short-term good rents, right, for the life of your investment, but it also allows you to down the track potentially look at value add strategies like a pool, like a cubby house, like a shed, because heavy machinery like little backhoes and things like that, little excavators, are able to go down the side of your property, dig up a pool. Tradies are able to go down the side of your property, build a shed, etc. So having that side access there is really, really important. But again, I think, just from a rental perspective, anything with the ability to, house a boat or a shed or to store a caravan, they're going to rent for a little bit more. So yeah, look for something that has between 4 to 6 meters of width either side, because I think that's sort of sufficient amount of room to be able to store stuff on the side there and to provide that access towards the rear of the property. And if you can find those guys, they're absolute gold. And this is something that we're always looking out for when we're targeting properties. This is one of the key things we're looking at on our asset selection criteria list of things, right? The cheat code when we're buying here in regional Queensland. Because what you'll actually find is, particularly the properties that are on smaller blocks, right? They don't have, really good side access. Pretty much the wall line sits here, the roof line sits here, and then the fence is literally a meter away from where the roof and the walls end. So there's nothing you can really do to access that side of the dwelling or to use that side of the dwelling and then to access the rear of the property. So you'll find properties on smaller blocks tend to have very limited side access, but then you'll find properties that are quite big, right? So they take up a large amount of the frontage. So let's say you have like a 22-meter frontage and your property takes up, 20 meters of that frontage, and you have the best part of a meter either side. So you got to look at, what's the configuration of the house on the lot, and does it allow for my property to have side access? And if you can include this one, guys, you're going to definitely secure more rent and get above average rents in the marketplace. Now, the lucky last one you need to put on your list to get above average rental returns, right? And get that good cash cow here in regional Queensland is a property that has either shed or storage, right? So a shed like a garden shed out the back, or a big 2-bay shed where you could store a boat, a caravan. And when I refer to storage, you can even look at dual living properties where you have occupancy upstairs and downstairs. You have usable floor area that's not necessarily legal height, but it's enclosed and it can be used as storage or a rumpus space. So we find that properties that have these additional features have a tendency to also rent for a little more, because people just pay for that extra feature of having the ability to store stuff away in a shed or underneath the house, So, this is really, really important, guys. And we've seen properties just with a shed alone, a big 2-bay shed that's fully powered, rent for an extra $50 a week, right? Then a house that's very similar in specification, rent for $50 more, right? So that's crazy. So this is the power of what, just doing this alone can do to your cash flow in the marketplace here. So the things to look out for is sheds that are either garden sheds or big 2-bay sheds with the ability to store things away. And just think about it from a practical point of view. What can this shed be used for practically, right? And if you can see practicality there, then that's where the tenant will most likely see practicality also, and then see value in potentially renting that property and be willing to pay a little bit more, right, to rent that property because they can see practicality with the shed, with the storage space, right? So what we tend to do is, yeah, look for things like garden sheds or big powered sheds that have the ability to store stuff away, boats, caravans, tools, right? Trailers, even man caves, the ability to be stored and turned into and converted into man caves. All of these, as I said, they have the ability to just give the property that little bit of extra kicker, right? That little bit of sprinkle on top to give it that extra rent. So powered sheds, non-powered sheds tend to do the trick there, guys. And we often look for them either on the side of the dwelling. So sometimes you get properties that are built on the side of the dwelling. You get the sheds that are built on the side of the dwelling, sorry, or the storage areas on the side, or at the rear of the property. So look for a property that has these spaces either at the side or at the rear. And look, if it has the ability to even, down the track, allow you to put one on there, then they are also very good, right? So as I said before, if you have that side access and then you have the sufficient green space, then down the track you could even add a shed, add things like a garden shed, add extra storage space, and manufacture your own rents in the future, and that'll allow you to have stronger cash flow in the future because you can manufacture, value in the property to then get stronger rental returns as a result. So if you can include shed and storage capacity or storage areas on your asset selection criteria, that's going to give you really good rental returns also, guys. And again, if you couple that in with all of the things we've discussed, also you can start to see how all of these, when stacked on each other, right, just become the little 1%ers that can be the difference between a good property and a great property. And when buying in regional Queensland, you are coming into a market, right, that doesn't have the same macro fundamentals as the capital city. So it's important that you nail all of these smaller details, right, to mitigate your downside risk, but then to position yourself for the upside that comes with holding a good investment. And if you can tick all of these boxes, you're just going to stack value on top of value, guys, and get those really good rental returns. Well, there you have it, guys. I told you it was going to be short and sweet, just like me. Look, if you stuck around till the end, I really appreciate you. I hope you got some value out of what was covered there today because, look, I really do believe if you can add these 5 things to your asset selection criteria, it is definitely the cheat code to higher rents here in the regional Queensland property market. And look, 95% of people that I work with anyway and investors that we buy for are coming to regional Queensland to chase rental yields as well, like to get properties that cost them very little to hold because they can't get those juicy rental yields in the capital cities. House prices are too expensive. So while you are here, why not maximize your rental returns and actually look at the smaller detail as to how I can get a property that achieves higher than average rent. And if you can implement these things, you're going to find those exact properties, guys. And that's it. Look, my name is Troy Bassini. I'm the owner and head of research of Life Buyers Agency. If you are a buyer struggling to buy in the regional Queensland property market, you want to find assets that outperform, you want to find rental properties that outperform, this is the type of analysis and level of detail we take to finding assets, and we'll be able to get you into the marketplace. But feel free to reach out to me and the team there. You can visit us on that website, give us a call on that number. And yeah, as I said, no one makes this sort of content, guys. So feel free to like and share and leave any comments as well. If you got any comments, I'll be more than happy to circle back and address that at a later date. But I'll see you on the next video, guys. And again, thank you for tuning in.